it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K,
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TB. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday, July 25th, once again, still in Spain and still pre-recording, by the way. Thank you for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, once again recognized one of Canada's top fleet employers for the 4th consecutive year. The prestigious accolade underscores their steadfast dedication to fostering a workplace of excellence and opportunity, much in part to their exceptional team for their unwavering commitment and contribution. Energy Transportation Group is a top fleet employer. Also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, a refreshing thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days with only 90 calories. 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. Also brought to you in part by Playground. Play lucky numbers at Playground. Earn your entries daily. Return every Sunday for a chance to win a share of the $15,000 in cash prizes with a $5,000 top prize. And on July 28, one lucky winner will take home $10,000 at the $30,000 finale. Visit playground.ca for details. Without further ado, I bring him in. Grant McCagg of recruits.ca and the Recruits Draftcast podcast. And Sick News, what's going on?
Hey. Oh, just looking forward to going over these lists with you, Tony. I put together some depth charts, under 25 lists there, and I think I just sent it to you. You might have had a quick look. So
yeah,
looking forward to discussing it.
All right. So the topic today is going to be the Canadiens players/prospects ages under 25, and we're going to compare it to different teams, different years, a couple of them in particular. Why don't we start with the 2024 list? Here we are, end of July 2024. What does the Canadiens U25 depth chart look like? Here you have it. Centers, Suzuki, Hage, Kapanen, Beck, Florian Xhekaj. Wingers, and I see you put Doc there, but I understand why, because you had to take a center or two and put them on the wing, maybe even more. Slavkovsky, Doc, Newhook, Koivu, and Thorpe. On the left, Demidov, Caulfield, Joshua Roy, Philip Méchard, and Luke Tuck. On defense, Hudson, Reinbacher, Gouli, Mailloux, Xhekaj, Barron, Struble, Harris, Engstrom, and William Trudeau. Your goalies, Primo, Fowler, and Jakub Dobish. This is once again a U25 depth chart. You know, I know people have said this before. I don't think I have. And if I did, I was probably wrong. But this is probably the deepest, most talented depth chart under this age that the Canadiens have had in a long time. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think it's comparable to the two lists that I compiled to compare them to, which I think were the peaks of the two previous groups of prospects that ended up winning cups or competing for cups. And I just, I mean, you look at that and there's 8 or 9 legitimate top 6 prospects. They're either playing in the NHL right now or have the potential to be, you know, top 6 players. Like Newhook and Roy,
Yeah.
if they don't end up being top 6 players, they can be very productive third liners. Same, I think, goes for Kapanen. Meshar, I mean, you look at that. Obviously, ideally, you don't have a fourth line with Meshar and Koivu on it, because they're more likely to be either top 9 guys or maybe not at all. And ideally, guys like Tuck and Jacky will be your fourth liners down the road. Mm-hmm. But when you have 12 legitimate top 9, like I think the top 12 guys that I have listed there are all legitimate top 9 prospects or players that are already playing. So that's a product of drafting a lot of players in the top 80. I believe on that list, if I got it right, there's something like 22 top 80 picks.
Yeah.
There's a team right there.
Picks, yeah.
There's an NHL team right there just from top 80 picks. How long has that been, Tony? I don't know that they've ever had that kind of depth with high draft picks. So, I mean, you'd have to go back to Pollock in the 70s. So,
and you know what, Grant? I'll say this, okay? Marc Bergevin, obviously, and he's been the subject of criticism by many. Lord knows he wasn't perfect, but I will say this: there's one thing that I always thought, a couple of things I always thought he was good at. One was talent identification. Another one was asset management. He was able to go out and get players and, let's say, give up a 4th round pick and then keep the player for 2 years and end up getting a 4th and a 2nd. Like, I think he did that with Scandella, for example. I think he picked up Nate Thompson for like a 5th, kept him for a year and a half, and then ended up getting like the same 5th or a 4th for him or whatever. Or maybe like his asset management, there's been many trades over the past couple of years where he went out once again and he gave up something to get a player and then kept the player for a year or two and ended up getting more for him than he actually paid to begin with. So, and that's when, you start adding draft picks. And the more you add, well, the more chance you have of getting one right. Right?
Oh, for sure.
It's a law of averages, right?
Yeah. And like a lot of people, make the claim that the Montreal didn't really start the rebuild until the new regime came in. And I don't think that's the case. You look at a lot of the under 25 talent there that was obtained during the Bergevin years. So it's been a combination of the two. I think the rebuild's been going on for 4 to 5 years, and I think it's done. Like, I don't think they have to keep trading guys for more draft picks. They've got another 2.
Whoa. That's an interesting statement you just made, because a lot of people equate rebuild to finishing in the cellar and end up, having a top 4, 5, 6 pick. And they had teams that did finish bad. Like, when Marc Bergevin was hired, which I think was May 2nd, 2012, I mean, he was hired because Gautier's team, I think, had finished their last or whatever it was. And then when they drafted Kotkaniemi third 4 or 5 years later, it's because they had a bad season. So they had a couple of bad seasons. But, some of the players that were drafted under the Bergevin administration and when Trevor Timmins was there, they're not high draft picks though. Like Goulet, correct me if Goulet was 16, I think. Mayu was 31, I think. Struble was not,
46.
Not correct. Neither was Harris. I'm taking a look here, and so
but I mean, I think a top 80 pick is a legitimate NHL prospect.
I got it.
And
okay, I got it.
There are 17 picks from the first 2 rounds in that group right there, and a lot of them, 10 top 20 picks. Like one more, like I say, they've got one more draft with 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Like when I say the rebuild's over, I mean that, I'm not saying trade those 2 first-round picks, but they have them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think they have to keep, like, I don't think they have to collect any more top 50, top 60 picks. Like
Yeah.
so in that sense, the rebuild is over, I think. I don't think
Yeah.
they have to keep trading for, I mean, they've got 22 top 80 picks. Well, you've only got a 23-man roster. You add
Yeah.
5 more, there's 4 players that are never going to play on the team. So, I mean, just numbers alone tell you that you can't. At some point, you have to stop collecting draft picks when you have 22 top 80 picks.
They can all play, of course. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You know?
I got to tell you something. All these players on this chart that we have up here, I mean, geez, they all have quality. There's no doubt about it. But I take a look at those guys that you have in the first line there, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and Demidov. Holy jumping. When was the last time they had something like that? I mean, that's unbelievable. That's a first pick overall. That's a guy who probably should have been a second pick overall in Demidov.
Agreed.
And that's a guy in Suzuki who I think was a 13th pick overall. But if you go back and look at his draft, he's a top 5 pick.
Should have been a top 5, top 8 at the very worst. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, you can say that. You can argue the same with Caulfield. I think if you redrafted, he'd be a top 10 pick from his draft year, and Doc for sure. Those guys are going to be on your second line. So, yeah, it's not just where they were drafted; it's where they should have been drafted. And I think there are legitimately 5 guys that should have been top 10 picks if they weren't top 10 picks in the top 6.
If on draft day Cole Caulfield was 6'2" instead of 5'7", 5'8", he would have gone in the top 5. It's that simple. That's the way it is. Yeah.
But all right. Okay. Like points wise or goals wise, he's second, I think, in his draft, or top 3 in his draft class. So hey, that's a top 10 pick, right?
And Kent Hughes has talked about at one point, they're comfortable drafting centermen because the centerman can play the wing, and we know that it's a lot easier for a centerman to play wing than it is for a winger to play center. And, you take a look at Doc, who's on the wing here at right wing, and Newhook's on right wing, and Koivu's on right wing. It's, when you hear about the prospects, it's one thing. When you actually see them in front of you, like on a chart like this, it's something else. They've done well to draft all these centermen. They have. You never have enough centermen in an organization.
No, this is the best center depth. I mean, even when we compare it to 89 and 76, which are the next 2 lists, that there was not this center depth back then even. So like both Savard and Pollock obtained centers, like Bobby Smith, he went out and got Damphus, Smith, Muller. They were all guys that they were traded for, but Montreal, with the exception of Suzuki, obviously, this is all, drafted players that, and Newhook, I guess, obviously too, and Doc. Okay, here we go. They also did, but they got them very young, right?
Yeah,
like Doc was 20, I think, or 21. Newhook 21. Suzuki was 19. So they're, you can almost, they were developed in the Montreal system, you could say. Right?
Yeah,
They weren't like, it wasn't like when Serge Savard traded for Muller at mid 20s and Damphus. These guys actually were developed in the Montreal system or are developing in the Montreal system. So yeah, that's just such an impressive under 25. I didn't compare it with the other top under 25 groups in the NHL, but I'm going to do that. And I would be hard pressed to think of any offhand that you could say are more impressive than this group. It's outstanding.
Anaheim's very good, I think.
Yeah, maybe they're comparable, but I'd have to put them up side by side and have a look. And that's probably the group that you think of right offhand, because they've had a lot
some
of
bad years over the last several years. Yeah, they've had a lot of top 10.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand the work here. So basically, geez, the body of work you did here, you pretty much went back about 50 years and took the 2 or 3 years that you thought had probably the best U25 depth. So you came out with 76, you came out with 89, and you're comparing it to 2024's U25 depth. So you went through Hockey DB and everything and all the draft picks. The last 50 years, you did this?
Yep.
That takes a lot of time, Brad. That takes a lot of time.
When you're a fanatic, it's fun. It's not time consuming. It's fun.
A fanatic, I think, would be an understatement. You're also a workaholic, and I think people just had a chance to see what you've been working on, because that's a lot of research. You know, when journalists put stuff together and they're looking for data and whatever, they go back 3, 5, 6, 10 years. You've gone back 50. It's pretty impressive stuff, Grant. All right, okay. Thanks. So why don't we do that? Let's take a look at that 1989 U25 depth. By the way, the Canadiens went to the Stanley Cup final in 1989. I know that because I was in a depression because they took a series lead and they ended up losing and actually lost the Stanley Cup on home ice, on Montreal Forum ice. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the first time and the last time that the cup was awarded to a visiting team on the Montreal Forum ice. Was it not? Did I get that right? Or I remember hearing that somewhere. All right, okay. 1989 U25, Corson, Castles, LeBeau, Gilchrist, Ronan, Leclerc, Claude Lemieux, Benny Brunet, Tom Trorsky, and Peterson, Stéphane Richer, one of my favorites, Russ Cornell, Mike Keane, Jocelyn Lemieux, and was that Patrick Jelberg? I think it was back in
Jelberg.
Yeah. Desjardins, Svoboda, Schneider, Brisebois, Odeline, Daigneault, Lume, Popovich, Dufresne, Lefebvre, Roy, Racicot, Bergeron. There's one thing that stands out to me, and I say that with a lot of respect for the defensemen that I see on this list. I think the upside for the Canadiens U25 prospects right now on defense is a lot higher.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think, when you look at that top four, it's solid. Desjardins, Svoboda, damn fine NHL defenseman, but there's no potential point per game blue liner there, and I really think Hudson has that potential. Reinbacher, I have compared him to Serge Savard before. That type, I think he's got that type of potential. Whether he's a Hall of Famer or not, I mean, who knows? But and then you look at Mailloux, and we didn't really discuss that 2024 group of defensemen because the forwards look so good, but Mailloux and Goulet, if they end up being your second pairing, I mean, holy geez, there's a lot of potential there too. So I think it has similar depth. Like that's 5 guys or 10 guys that all played, became basically regular defensemen with perhaps the exception of Dufresne. So similar in the depth, I think. But as far as potential goes with the top 4 or 5 guys, I give the edge. And I mean, time will tell, right? Maybe they don't pan out, but potential-wise, well, you look at that group, Tony, there's no, I don't know, other than Svoboda, there wasn't a top 20 pick there, right? Well, Montreal's group, I think there's only a couple of, Daigneault was a top 10 pick. And Svoboda was a top 10 pick. So
Svoboda was a top 10 pick for sure. I remember that.
Yes. And Daigneault was 6th, I think, overall in his draft year. But it's fair to say that he was
10th by Vancouver.
Yeah. 10th. Okay. 10th. Okay. It was top 10 though, right?
Yeah. Top 10. Yeah.
They didn't. I don't think you could say that he ended up being a top 10 NHL defenseman. But
no,
Montreal's got Mailloux, Goulet, Reinbacher. Hudson should have been a first round pick. There's more potential with that group. And also look at when you compare center.
Yeah.
Like none of those wingers were centers. I had to even put Ed Ronan as the fifth center in that group, and really there's only four. All the other guys are wingers. And Corson, your best center versus Suzuki, Hage, Doc, Newhook, etc. That
But
center
correct me if I'm wrong.
is nowhere as close as promising as the group they have right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Shane Corson was drafted as a winger.
Well, he's a winger too, really. Like I had to stick him in there because who else?
Yeah.
Would you put?
Yeah, you're right.
He played a bit of both.
Yeah, he may have played a little bit of center, I think, when he was dealt to the St. Louis Blues, but he was playing left wing with the Canadians. And
Mostly.
Look, the best player in terms of talent, I think, of that center crop was Stéphane Lebeau. Like when they won the Stanley Cup, I think Stéphane Lebeau had 30 goals that year that they won. Stéphane Lebeau was a fine player. It wasn't very big. He was a player. Yeah.
I think he was a spare pretty much though in the playoffs, was he not? Like I don't know. He may have played one year where one playoff year he played regular, but he wasn't in the NHL for long. He had a kind of a meteoric rise there for a couple of years. He had those 2 great years in the AHL, remember? Had an 80-point season with the Habs, but he was out of the NHL within 4 or 5 years, if I recall correctly. So
he had I have it here. I brought it up. I think he had about 7 full seasons in the National Hockey League, or 6 full seasons in the National Hockey League. You're right. He played a game for the Canadians in 88-89, and then he played 57 games the following year with the Canadians, 73 games the following year, 77 games the following year, 71 games the following year. That's the year that they won the Cup, by the way, where he played 13 games in the playoffs the year that they won the Cup. And
he was kind of a spare, almost. Like 13 games, they played 20 some, right? Or
yeah, they did, but I think he may have had an injury in those playoffs, but I could be wrong.
How many points did he get that playoff year, Tony?
13 games, he got 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points.
6 points. So he wasn't. I'm hoping that obviously Suzuki, Doc, Hage, Kapanen, Beck, Newhook. That's quite a group. I mean, you can't compare. I think, Richer and Leclerc became 50-goal scorers, right? So at this point, you got to give those are the 2 best out of all of the prospects compared between 89 and 2024. But will they go down in history as better players than all of the Canadians present? We'll see.
Yeah. Stéphane Richer obviously scored 50-plus goals twice in a 3-year span. He was a fine offensive talent. And in goal, it's pretty hard to beat Patrick Roy. I mean, that's the beauty. That's the nice one right there. John Leclerc was so big in that 1993 Stanley Cup final. Of course, he scored the game-winning goals in overtime in games 3 and 4 in Los Angeles to give the Montreal Canadiens a 3-1 series lead, and then they came back to the Montreal Forum, and of course, they won Game 5 by a score of 4-1. A shout out to Betway, their leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on Betway.com or scan the QR code to join. The action must be 18 years old and play responsibly. All right, okay. Let's bring up the 76 list.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this one.
I decided to go with 76 because, well, that was Lafleur. If you went 77, Lafleur was 25, and he wouldn't be under 25. This was their peak. This was their peak group of under 25. I mean, obviously, how many Hall of Famers have we got there? 1, 2, 3. Well, Lafleur, Schutt, Gainey, and Robinson. So actually only 4. I thought it might be more, But that lineup had, Cornway, Lemaire, Savard, Lapointe, all guys that were over 25 at the time, but were Hall of Famers. So surprisingly, Tony, Shutt and Lafleur, Gainey, Robinson, you say, well, that's the best group of 4 out of the 3 prospect groups that we looked at. That
without a doubt, the 89 prospect pool had Patrick Roy, the best goalie of the group. The 76 prospect pool had 4 Hall of Famers like Lafleur, Shutt, Gainey, and Robinson. And the 2024 one seems to have the most overall depth.
Yes. Well, when you get down to, Jarvis's third line, he was really a fourth line center, but in this group, you had to put him there. Like the center, I like the center group better. The under 25 center group from 2024 to that one. That's a fine, Mondu, Riseborough, Jarvis, Ron Wilson, Jamie Hislop, who only played 150 NHL games.
Yeah.
And then all the other guys, none of them are centers, right? I mean, it runs 6-7 deep, the group right now. That's very, very promising. I prefer the center group in 2024. And I mean, we'll see, Slavkovsky, Caulfield, and Demidov have a heck of a lot of upside, and maybe 1 or 2 of them becomes Hall of Famers. We'll see. I mean, that this team will have to win cups or come damn close to it for guys to become Hall of Famers, probably. But it's such a deep and quality group that, like, the 89 and 76 don't compare depth wise. And beyond Robinson, none of those defensemen, I mean, yeah, Robinson's the top of all of the 3 groups. He's number 1 by far. But then after that, Van Boxmeer, I'd put like 5 or 6 defensemen I think have better potential than Van Boxmeer and Engblom that are in the group of under 25 right now. Chartrand was kind of a spare. Naira, Lupien, same thing. Barry Melrose, well, he never played for the Canadians, but he was a recent pick. He ended up,
it seems like the Canadians U25 depth chart of 2024 has a lot more top 4 potential on defense, right?
Yes.
And this one here, with the exception of Robinson, has a lot more depth defenseman.
Yes, yeah. And I think it goes deeper right now. And then even on, even in goal, like the only prospect they had was on was Larocque. They didn't have anyone else like under 25 in the system that was any good at the time. Dryden was 28, so he wasn't under 25 anymore. But even if you look at like Fowler, Primo, Dobish is a pretty promising under 25 group of goalies. So certainly depth-wise, 2024 blows away this group too. And it's funny because Pollock, he collected top 80 picks like crazy. Every one of those years, you can go back and look, they had like 4 or 5 first-round picks sometimes and stuff. Yet in 76, this was their depth chart of under 25. It's not incredibly deep. The Canadian secret was making so many picks that, eventually guys hit. Like, the year they had 4 or 5, like Tremblay hit, Riseborough hit, Gainey, but it was only because they had 4 or 5 first-round picks, because there were lots of them that flopped. So I think it bodes well that the Canadians have, like I say, 22 top 80 picks in the system right now. Yeah. And a lot of them, you only need a dozen of them to hit, really, because you already have 8. You're always going to have 8 to 10 guys on the team in addition to your draft picks. So I really think that just the future is so bright for the Canadians right now.
If Shane could bring up the 1989 U25 depth chart list one more time, there's something I want to pay special attention to that I hadn't before. Richer, Lemieux, Lebeau, Brunet, Desjardins.
Well, right.
Daniel. No, I'm trying to look at Patrick Roy. I'm trying to look at players that were actually drafted by the Canadiens for just an exercise that I wanted to do here because, of course,
okay.
Serge Savard influence, right, with Andre Boudria, and they've since, Serge has since been very outspoken about it, the fact that he finds the Canadiens have been drafted a lot of Quebecers ever since he's no longer been the general manager of the Canadiens.
Yes.
But he used to go out and try and draft as many as possible.
Lefebvre, yeah. Now, Bergeron, Rasico were draft picks as well. But you go back and look at how many Q guys in 1989 were picked in the first round compared to these days. If there's 3 guys from the Q picked in the first round, that's a good crop. It was much different back then. I look back. I did something on the lack of Quebec League talent that's coming out now. It was 1975 or so. I think over half of the top 20 scorers were Quebecers. And last year, when I did this study, there were no top 25 Quebecers in the top 25 scoring. If it was last year or the year before, from half to none, Tony. So I don't think you can say, well, you can't get blood from a stone, right?
No.
The last time the Canadiens picked a Quebecer in the first round was Louis LeBlanc. How did that work out, right? So
I hear you.
They have to be there for you. I know at one point, because there was this hue and cry about it, I also did an article a few years back, and what I did was I substituted the guy that Montreal picked with the next Quebec leaguer that got picked and compared the 2 rosters, and there was no comparison. It was way better. It was way better the group that they selected instead of the next.
Yeah, but you know the way it is. There's some select members of the fan base and some select members of the media that will pick that one Quebec player that actually has had some success and say, well, that's the one they should have drafted, even if they probably didn't have a pick when that player was coming out. Well, they should have believed in him and made a deal to actually go out and get a pick before that player so that they can nab him. Anyway, interesting exercise we did here, to say the least, Grant. I really enjoyed it. Letting everyone know the Habs documentary, The Rebuild, will air on September 18th. The Rebuild will air on television on September 18th. And I want to let everyone know that I was actually very honored to be among those who were asked to take part in the documentary. So you'll see this ugly face come up on the tube a couple of times. And I enjoyed doing it. As a matter of fact, it was extremely well professionally done, as you would imagine that it would have been. So I look forward to watching that. Grant, look forward to always touching base with you again. And once again, the work that you put into this was absolutely unbelievable. I'm sure everyone appreciated it. Special thanks to our sponsors, Energy Transportation Group, to Bittt, to Tibi, to Playground, and to Betway. And if you like the show, to all of us or to all of you watching, like it, comment sick, share it with your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple, it really is our way of feeling the love. For Grant McCagg of Recruits and Recruits.ca and the Recruits Draftcast podcast, along with Shane Gaumont and Sick News, and Shane Gaumont and Yellow Cavallaro and Sammy Cavallaro back at Master Control. Thanks for watching, everyone. The Sick Podcast. Have a good one, Grant.
Yeah, you too, Tom.
Cheers, buddy.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVita TB, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.